So just a quick one, because obviously if you know my next guest, you'll know this episode's going to be wordy already. So last week I didn't put out an episode, but I put out two the week before, because last week was Flackstock. And I just want to start by saying an enormous thank you to Flackstock Festival for having us. Our first ADHD AF Emporium event was an enormous success. We're overwhelmed and overjoyed, and very, very excited to announce that we will be back next year. They invited us back. So an enormous thank you to the festival, to absolutely all of the people involved. So from speakers to community legends who travelled far and wide to help us put that event on, and to everybody who came and supported us on the day and from afar. It was a lot of work and a long time coming, and we got there and we're absolutely made up. So thank you also to all of our traders for collaborating with us. And if you would like to trade as part of ADHD AF Emporium, which champions neurodivergent makers and small businesses, get in touch via the form, which will be in the link in the blurb of this episode, to trade with us in both our online marketplace and also future in-person events, including Flackstock Festival. So one of the people who made that event so very special is my next guest, Nicole Nadler, who is part of the ADHD AF furniture. Nicole is literally chosen family to me. We are very, very similar people, and we connected through this podcast. So if you've not already heard Nicole's original interview that took place exactly 2 years ago, pretty much, she was interviewed in episode 17 of season 1. So this is a 2-year later reflection of where she's up to now. And I'm really excited to share this episode with, quite frankly, the biggest legend I know. So enjoy. Though blatantly obvious, the late discovery, diagnosis and treatment at 38 for severe combined type ADHD in 2022 not only improved, but genuinely saved my life, which I have since dedicated to fighting for change amidst the global ADHD crisis. As the acronym suggests, I swear like a sailor, and each episode will contain sensitive subject matter. So please always read the description before diving in, where you will also find a link to resources for support. These crucial conversations with experts by lived experience are shared to inform, validate, shame eradicate, and unite the ADHD community, with a fair few laughs along the way. I've been labelled too much all my life, but finally I celebrate my too muchness and use my justice sensitivity to let the world know that ADHD presents differently in each individual. Self-diagnosis is valid, and that ADHD is not a trend. ADHD is real. And I want all ADHDers of all genders to know you are not alone. The leopard is the symbol of Aberdeen, Scotland, where this podcast began. It also symbolises bravery, the reclaiming of power, and I'm a total hun. So leopard print has become the uniform of the ADHD AF community, uniting to support each other and push for change, which together we can make happen. We are the leopard print army. Hear us roar. I'm Laura, and I am ADHD AF. Right, this is going to be an absolute mission. Trying to actually get us to do quickfire together is the most ridiculous thing there is. The two hyperverbal ones. Name?
Nicole Nadler.
Location?
Edinburgh, Scotland.
Occupation?
Marketing. I work in marketing. Simplest way.
Actress? Writer?
That too. Actress, marketing, corporate girly.
What is your star sign?
Scorpio, darling.
Of course. Favorite film?
Well, it's quickfire, but I always have 3 favorite films for 3 reasons. When Harry Met Sally, for when I want friends, for Moulin Rouge, for when I want to be in love, and Big Fish, for when I need magic.
Oh, Big Fish. I forgot about that film. That's
The
lovely.
winner.
The bit where he walks through the popcorn.
You don't gotta please, I'm crying at the thought. I'm actually going to keep going. Rapid fire.
Okay.
We'll talk later.
What city in the world are you most like?
I'm like New York.
Of course you are.
Through and through. It really is me, and I am it. The good and the bad.
This is really going to be the hardest interview I've ever done, because I really want you to tell the story right now about you walking along with the brie and the bread.
I'll do it really quick.
Go on, do it quickly.
Okay, really quickly. So there's this beautiful grocery store called Trader Joe's. If you've never experienced it, I'm so sorry. They sell mini baguettes. I don't know how, it's like the length of my forearm. I'm holding it up like you could see, but it's a mini baguette. And I would go in and I would buy a mini baguette and I would buy like a big thing of like a standard, like a triangle of brie and an apple. And I'm in my mid-20s. I'm a grown adult woman at this point. And I would just walk around doing like a bite of the bread and a bite of the cheese and a bite of the apple and like just engage in life in that way. And it just did not occur to me. I just didn't think about it until one time a friend was like, you just, what?
You just walking the streets of New York, making your own sandwich in your mouth, bite by bite.
Yeah, kind of. And then someone pointed out that and they were like, what is happening? And when they said that, I saw myself through anyone else's perspective, and I was like, oh yeah, that's weird. I just never thought about it. So that's me. Anyway, next question.
So your ADHD diagnosis status?
Privately diagnosed, as combined, as I think most of us are.
Yeah, I think it's 85%,
Yeah.
I think is combined type. I'm not going to ask you the rest because we've already had this conversation. If you haven't already listened to Nicole's original interview, which is from August 2022, in which we tracked her down after we saw you in the press talking about rationing ADHD medication. And interestingly enough, you've very recently been in the press again.
All I'll say is that the story got picked up when they put it on Facebook. They had the title, they always add their little clickbaity headline. And it said something like, Nicole enjoyed incredible sellout shows in her 2023 Edinburgh Fringe run, something like that. But this year, it might be a flop.
Thank you.
I think I screenshotted it and I was like, I have to print. That's good. It might be a flop. The phrase, it might be a flop I'm going to use, I don't know. That's going to be a book title.
I feel like you need to put it in the show.
I know. I don't know how to weave it, but that phrase, it might be a flop, is like my new why am I like this personality. It's so funny to me. Like, thank you so much for the confidence. Cheers.
2 years ago, you hadn't signed up to do an Edinburgh Fringe show. That was last year, was your first Edinburgh Fringe show. Now, what has changed for you since the last time we spoke, since 2 years ago?
A lot, Laura. I did not know you, and now we live in the same life, a lot has changed. But in the way in which you're referencing, I re-listened to the interview, and it's interesting to me how much of what I said feels so relevant and how much of what I said I completely forgot I even thought that way or felt that way, or it's really interesting to see. I was always accepting of my ADHD kind of from day one, but 2 years ago, I was still in this very much like a exploratory phase. In those early days, there's so much to learn, and it's like, if anybody wears glasses or you put glasses on and you can see, like that really was what it felt like. Like I can see without my glasses, okay. And then I put them on, I'm like, oh no, never mind. Now I can really see. And that's how it felt. And so now I don't not feel that way. It's just I'm used to it now. But I remember that 2022 year specifically really felt a lot of that kind of exploratory of like, this is this and that is that and that means this. And I really felt like I was in a place because I understood myself and I could explain myself and I could ration with myself about, I'm not this stupid, lazy, crazy person. That's this type of symptom. And I have this symptom and that. And I felt like I was becoming, my favorite quote says, it takes courage to become who you truly are, or it takes courage to grow up and become who you truly are.
Yes.
I felt in that year that I was in the actual moment of becoming who I was. Like it really felt like a blossoming.
Yeah. So quite exciting, really, like an exciting and happy time of like, now you know why you are like this.
I know.
Problem is you still like it, aren't you?
That's really the funny thing.
For anybody who doesn't know either of us, we literally are like chosen family members. Literally, we're both a lot of people, and we probably get on quite a lot of people's nerves, but not each other. So it's great.
It's so fine.
So with your new show being called Why Am I Still Like This? Yeah. And it's opening in 3 days, is that right?
Today is Tuesday and it opens on Friday.
It
So yeah.
opens on Friday. Would it be fair to say that this is a slightly less optimistic viewpoint a year on from last year's show?
That's really interesting because when writing this show, it took a long time because I really struggled to find the line of what I think for a lot of people is negativity and pessimism, but for me is what I think is realistic. I don't
Yes.
think it's negative to be honest about difficult things in life. I
No.
think there's a point where it dips into a place where it's like you need to pull back. So that's where I was really wanting to find, like, I wanted to really portray my own realistic view. And if that feels negative, it's because it was negative.
Yeah.
But I didn't want the show to have this overall feeling of like, well, life shit, then you die. Because that's not how I feel. So it was really a fine balance where there were some parts where it felt too light. So I had to bring in some heaviness. There were some parts that were too heavy. I think overall, it still has that feeling of optimism, which essentially is when you know why you are like this, regardless of what the this is. For us, it's ADHD.
Yeah.
Could be anything. That's not really the point. The point is when you know why, then you can re-examine your life and what you think of yourself to be true. And there was a line in the other show that's not in this show about being a false narrator in your
Yes.
life because the narrator is supposed to know everything and they're omnipresent. And so we are all the narrators of our own life. But when you don't have the right pieces of information, then your narrator, your omnipresent, omniscient narrator is wrong.
Yeah.
So there still is optimism of when you know why you are like this, there is always room to grow. There is space. You can finally become, or you can finally begin to become the person you were meant to be, which is a continuing lifelong journey. It's not like a full stop, you've made it.
There. No, exactly. And you know what? I think it's really interesting because much like, obviously you were one of the early guests on ADHD AF. And we've been along this path together. I've been at every show. Nicole, I don't think I could do a show without you.
It'd be very weird to not be there at a show. Yeah.
But, much like I have been here, we're still on this path. We're just sharing our experiences at this exploration of finding out this massive plot twist and looking at it all differently. Yeah. And actually, this show is a reflection of where you're up to now. And there are so many people that have been listening even to this podcast from day dot, and the people that have been to the shows and seen you do the previews from last year and everything, that we're actually all on this path together. Yeah. We're all like, hooray, I have the answer. Oh, no shit, I've still got it. And what's next? And how do, navigating all of this, because you're not just going to take a magic pill. We know the pills aren't magic, unfortunately, and not everybody can take them. There are people along with us that still they know the answers and self-diagnosis is valid, but they haven't actually been given a medical assessment. They're still on a waiting list and they don't have any kind of treatment plan. Yeah. It's just the next evolution, the next step forward. Speaking of treatment plans, where are you up to?
Okay, so in the last episode, I listened back and I was not holding back. Not that I should have, but I was really disappointed with the care that I won't go back into. If you want to hear, you can, just for time's sake, you can go back to episode 17, I think. But the point of that episode was being denied shared care. So just since then, essentially what had happened was I just slipped through every crack that could be slipped through in the most ridiculous way. I was given shared care. And then I received a letter eventually, like beginning of 2023. Then in the summer of 2023, I got a letter saying, you can come to our NHS titration clinic thing in Edinburgh. I had like a maybe 10-ish minute appointment. I spoke with this doctor. I thought I was there for an NHS assessment. I didn't even know what I was there for. I was so confused. Doctor talked to me. She gave me a lot of information. And then I left. And not, as we know, working memory. I didn't really retain a lot of it. So in my memory, all I remember is her saying, this is a titration clinic. You come and we titrate you to medication.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, cool. And she said, this is a drop-in clinic. There's a little bit of a wait, but we'll be in touch. And then you can, and I was like, okay, cool. So I waited. And then 6 months later, I got a letter saying because I never attended, I was discharged. And I called up and they were like, yeah, you were supposed to attend. And I said, I thought I was supposed to wait. And they said, what were you? And it just was again, I missed yet again. And I've been calling back every couple of months. A few weeks ago, I got told they had just started open. And then I was told the clinic was not accepting new patients for 6 months. And I found out maybe 2 weeks ago, they said, oh, yes, we've just started accepting new patients just a week ago. You're at the top of the list. We'll be in touch. That was mid-July. It's end of July. No one's been in touch. So have to give them
Yeah.
another call tomorrow. So that's where I'm at. It,
Define top.
so when I was first taking medication, it was methamphetamine, Concerta, then Zagotin. I didn't have a bad experience on it. It just didn't, the way that other people described how much it impacted their lives, I did not feel that same impact. So nothing bad happened, just like not really much good. And it felt very irregular. Like sometimes I would feel really focused, sometimes I wouldn't. It just, anyway, it didn't really feel like it was doing anything for me, which was the whole point I found out of me going to this titration clinic to then, but anyway. So then I was tidying up and I found a bottle that I'm actually looking at right in front of me that had a bunch of tablets in it. And I was like, well, let me take them again. It was just like a bottle I never finished. And I'm having a great experience on them now. I don't know why it didn't help me a year ago. I don't know. I don't want to.
I think it's really interesting about medication because people message me about medication all the time, and I'm just like, just kind of give it a chance. Like and as ever, the disclaimer again, I am not a doctor. But my experience of titration was actually quite lengthy. So I always found it quite strange when people are like, oh, well, I'm on this one today. And by Friday, they're going to up my dose by 20 milligrams. I'm always like, okay, because I literally stayed on one for like a month and then went up for about 2 months and then came back down. And it took a real while for everything to settle in. So to begin with, I felt really like, whoa, gosh, I am on something.
Yeah.
And I ran around the house. And then and then I crashed very early, and that eased off within like a week. And then from that point, it felt normal. And so when people are saying, oh, well, it was working and now it's not working, I'm always a bit like, but you know, you're not supposed to feel like you're on drugs, right? It's supposed to feel normal. It's supposed to, yeah.
I talk more than anyone else I've ever met. Okay. I sit in silence for hours. I don't need to talk. It's crazy. Like my husband will speak. I just have nothing to say. Like, no, I'm not in a mood. He's like, are you in a mood? I'm like, no, why? He's like, you haven't spoken. I'm like, so zen. I don't know.
Is that good? Is that good that you're not speaking?
Yeah, great. I need to shut the fuck up, Laura. No, but no, I'm not a zombie. I don't mean anything like that. I think it's just it's hyperactivity.
Yeah.
Right.
So your hyperactivity comes out in hyperverbality, as does mine sometimes. But I will give you that crown.
It is truly the gift and the curse, let me tell you.
But not quite like when we were camping in Brighton the other day and I kept turning back around to tell you more things in the tent. We can go to
Laura was like, I said, we're going to go to bed. She's going to keep talking. And then we were in this tiny little, tiny, like
we were spooning.
I made a baby, okay? We could have made a baby. And so she's like, right, I'm going to go to bed. And I said, okay, good night. Turn over.
Just one more thing.
Really with the finger in the air too. It was every time it was like all this hair because it was like humid and stuff. So it was a lot of curly hair. So it wasn't even a face. It was like just hair and like one finger in the air of like, and I knew it. I was like, I know it's going to happen. I should have put money down. Anyway, we digress.
So anyway, the medication is making you calmer, making you talk less, and you're getting more done. So that is good.
That's what it affects everyone differently, I'm sure, because everyone's symptoms are different. So it's so even if the one size fits all, there's air quotes in there, is medication, the way that you need it to help you is different for that. I mean, I will talk if I have to. I just don't have this like coming out of me 24/7. It's exactly what I was hoping would be, which is that I need to do something, so I do it.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about this is much better than that time when you found those opiates that you didn't know were opiates.
Oh my God. Okay. Most ADHD thing maybe ever was that I had surgery a year ago and the doctor gave me medication and she must have explained it to me, but I had just come out of anesthesia. Read the box. Who the fuck reads a box? I've never read a box in my life. If you read a box, congratulations. Okay. In the beginning, I just took them to sleep because I wanted to be able to get a good night's sleep through the pain. So I didn't notice that they made me drowsy or whatever. And then I started taking them during the day. But I was in a lot of pain. And sometimes when I'm in pain, I'm tired. Like if I have a migraine, I just want to go to sleep. So I was in pain. I had abdominal surgery. So like when you sneeze, it hurts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I couldn't stay awake. And I was like, all right, I'm not in this much pain. Like, this is crazy. So I dug the box out. I was like, this must be drowsy. It was fucking opiates. I just took them.
Don't try this at home and always read the box.
Always read the box. Are you crazy? Oh my God. I don't know what I thought it was, just like a strong paracetamol. I just imagine if I had just taken them, it could be a very different interview.
So, what you rightly pointed out in all of this chaos that we've already created that I was trying to avoid but was inevitable is that you can slip through the cracks of the current ADHD diagnostic process. If you could make change tomorrow, because we know there's a load of people waiting. This week alone, we've had the BBC release that there is 200,000 estimated on the waiting list, and it can take up to 8 years in some parts of the UK. So if you could fix the problem, how would you fix it?
So I want to word this very carefully because I think diagnosis is very, very important. Obviously, I chose private assessment. I think it's very important. What I think is more important is the support.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of support that you need does not have anything to do with when you get diagnosed and how long it takes So I don't think that we should focus less on diagnosis or it's a huge problem. And I hope that someone cleverer than me has this incredible solution.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would like to offer is not or, but and. If we are struggling, and I can, on a very small level, understand all these people are finding out at once. There's only 2 doctors in the town who are equipped.
Yeah.
I get it. It's numbers. I mean, there's a lot of other issues, but in the simplest way, I can comprehend where the problem lies, and I don't know how to solve it. I hope someone does. One of the things that I am frustrated with is the push for diagnosis and diagnosis alone.
Yes.
Because it's, well, for anything, for like literally ADHD, but any personality disorder, mental health disorder, neurodiversity, anything, okay? Because it's like, well, you get diagnosed and on you go, have a good life, blessed be.
Off you trot, yeah.
What the fuck do I do with this now? I mean, this doctor basically gave me a thumbs up and said, yes, there is definitely something wrong with you. And I said, thank you. And now the rest is up to me. And without the doctor saying that, the rest would have still been up to me. The only difference would have been is the medication. So obviously but I had to find my own therapist, which I have and I'm very grateful for. I had to find my own circle of friends. I had to seek out my own information. I had to have my own difficult conversations. I still did all that, whether or not I ever spoke to a doctor.
Yes.
So I don't know a quick and snappy way to say it. But if it's a solar system and the diagnosis is the sun and everything else needs to keep rotating.
Yeah.
When you're diagnosed or not diagnosed, the rest of your life still goes on. And there's just such a lack of that. And from the outside world, the push is for diagnosis. So then you have people like myself, like yourself, like millions of other men, women, everybody out there being like, okay, I just need this diagnosis. It's like this hyper fixation on if I get this diagnosis. Therefore, you have this false narrative that if I get diagnosed, everything else will just
place. Yeah.
Right.
And the thing is that the diagnosis, to be medically diagnosed, it can mean that you can access different kinds of support, you can access treatment, you could potentially have help in the workplace, etc. But what you're saying is that there needs to be structure and support offered with or without it, and without it a very clear pathway of this is the help you can get, this is how we'll help you, this is what
or even with diagnosis, like you're saying, in schools and in work, I think that is very good, it's very brilliant, but for the most part, probably different for children. I'm speaking specifically for adults. You are still navigating. So a lot of workplaces will say, oh, we'll accommodate you, just let us know what you need. If someone said that to me, I mean, I have a really great job. I couldn't say one bad thing against it if I tried. So I don't need to put in any particular accommodations. But in other jobs, I absolutely would have benefited from accommodations. But if they'd said, well, what you just let us know and we'll let you know, I would not have known what to say. I wouldn't have known how to say it. If they came back at me and said, we thought about it, but it just doesn't work for the business, I wouldn't have known I would have been like, oh, okay, thanks anyway. Like that, even that. So even if it's like you have this disorder, okay, you need some help. Okay, you let us know. We'll then let you know. And then if it doesn't work, then you have to, I'm out.
It's the same. It's the same with access to work. So I'm still not there yet. And oh my God, I'm on my knees. I really need help now, and I just don't really know what to do. I don't know. Like I chase it, but then even when they come to me, it's like, well, what does that cover, or what am I entitled to? It's like a whole secret world for all the things that we're up against: choice paralysis or self-worth or misreading things, not retaining information, not understanding. For example, I don't really know how it's going to work. Like if they're going to give me a number, like, I mean, I can't remember if it was you I was speaking to the other day. Like, I really don't get numbers. Like, I'm not playing, guys. Like, I look at a number and I don't know if it's 5,000, 50,000, 500,000. Like I trip up every single day, multiple times. There needs to be more support in navigating the support, doesn't there?
I just wish that the focus was at least a duality of here's why diagnosis can be helpful. Here's why it's important. Here's how it helps people. Here's how you can benefit.
Yeah.
Or not, you get that diagnosis. Here are all of the other things in your life in which ADHD affects and what you can do. And yeah, so that would be what I would change, because to be honest, I think a lot of people get the thumbs up, the stamp of approval. They have that validation, which is so important. I totally get it. I did it as well. And then they're like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
Now what? I don't know where to go from here. And so they turn to a podcast or like a Facebook group or a random Instagram. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best we can offer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God.
That is the thing that makes me the craziest, because that happens whether or not you have diagnosis. So if 8 million people are waiting for 8 million years for that stamp on their paper, how can we keep it going in the meantime? How can we help the people who've already been there? That's it. I have no answers. I just have things to complain about. If anybody else has answers, you let me know. But
I feel you very, very deeply. It's very troubling the amount of times that I've felt to myself, In fact, I even found an old email to somebody who was helping us way back when, and I said, I want to fight for people to get the help that they need.
yeah.
I am not the help.
Yeah.
I can't help, but I will fucking fight for the help. And that's where I'm helpful.
Yeah, you are very good at that.
Yeah.
I will just talk at you. If that is helpful, then I'm happy to be helpful. That's really all I have.
So, hang on, let's get back on track. With ADHD presenting differently in each individuals, what are your greatest struggles? Finding your glasses?
Them fucking glasses, honestly. No, I have enough pairs now. It's fine.
You know what? I actually might take this moment to share the WhatsApp.
I have it on my phone. While I look for this clip, here's a tiny bit of context. Laura and she was coming from Aberdeen, picked me up in Edinburgh. We were going down to Blackpool, and then we were going camping at Flagstaff, and I just had a lot going on, okay? So I knew all this was happening, but I knew and forgot at the same time. Like, I forgot we were going camping. Laura was like, do you have camping stuff? I was like, why? She's like, I was like, oh yeah. Like, it was a lot. And then I was on these medications, and I was trying to get a website built, and I was in the absolute zone. And this is a voice note that I sent to Laura when I came out of the zone. Hold on. It was like 10 at night.
How am I, Laura? How am I? It's 10:30. I've had one cookie today. I have not stood up in 6 hours. I have not washed my hair in 5 days. I'm not packed for tomorrow. I have to be at the eye doctor place at 9:45. Everything's everywhere. What have I done for the last 5-ish hours since I finished work? Great question. I did a little bit of fringe stuff, like admin-y stuff. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to make a post about this thing. And then apparently I must have spent several hours doing it. I don't understand what happened. I don't understand. I just listened to your message, looked at my phone, looked at the time, realized I was sat in pitch black. And that's why I was like this. I fucking know already, but Jesus Christ.
I then proceeded to panic, walk around my house, tint my eyebrows. That was the number one priority.
Oh,
And
yeah, priorities. So she was so panicked that she tinted her eyebrows.
I don't know why. I looked in the mirror and I was like, my eyebrows look ugly, and I just tinted them. Like that I did straight away. And then I didn't know what to do. So I was just walking around, and like the best I can describe it is like in a cartoon where you're like I was like boing, boing, like bouncing off walls, because I just would walk into a room and be like, what do I do in this room? So then I'd walk out and then walk into the next room. And Laura was like, Nicole, why don't you start packing? And I was like, okay, good idea.
And it's not like it had been planned for 6 months or anything.
I'd known this was happening. Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, I still have ADHD.
So that would be your greatest ADHD struggle, really?
Still having it, yes. My greatest struggle is to still have it.
And speaking about support, since our last conversation 2 years ago, what systems have you put in place to better support yourself, and have your struggles improved somewhat, or how do you feel about it all?
Well, I do feel that my struggles have improved in the sense that I understand my struggles, and I can, every once in a blue moon, like sometimes I can almost see it coming. Not really, but I can be like, hold on, Nicole, like I'll try to do too many things at once, and all of a sudden I'll have this like vision, like this mind's eye, and I see myself and I'm like, I'm in my kitchen. I'm trying to cut something over top while I'm also trying to put the laundry in at the same time and open a jar. And I'm like, hold on. Maybe not like this. Maybe one thing. Like that's every once in a while, because I'll have these moments of clarity where I'm like, well, this is not the best way. Maybe this is not so smart.
That's good.
So that does happen, but it's like it's like whenever I wear a lot of high heels, and people are always like, how do you wear high heels? And I say, well, it's a learned skill, because it is a learned skill. You can't just put a baby in high heels. You can't put someone who's never worn them. It's a learned skill. And I just had a whole bag of marshmallows, so so what I'm saying is that the I've now known about my ADHD for 4 years, just over 4 years.
Yeah.
And in those years, I have learned the common ways in which I fall down, the things that really get me. So there are some things I do not really have problems with that other people typically have problems with. There are things I struggle with more that other people don't at all, so you can look at the tick box lists things and then see what is specific to your life. And I've been able to see the parts where I struggle the most. And it does become a learned skill to train yourself little by little, to be like, is this the best way? I did wake up yesterday and clean out all my jam jars at 7 a.m. So it's not perfect. There's so much to do, and that's what I did. But all my jam jars are clean. But I would say the learned skill of understanding, like, right, a typical symptom for me is time blindness, specifically in that I cannot ever figure out how long it takes me to accomplish something. So I cannot imagine how long I need to do something to then leave the house to then be where I need to be.
Yes.
It's a long
working backwards in those steps. Yeah.
I know that that's a problem. Knowing that that's a problem has changed a lot for me. And 2, I can start to prepare myself better, or can start to understand these things better, or if I need to set certain types of alarms, but because I know that that's a specific problem for me, I can identify it. I can kind of see it happening in the practice. Whereas before, you're just living in this like whirlwind of chaos where everything is happening to you, and you're just almost like a victim of your own existence.
Yeah.
And as far as sport, I do have a weekly therapist. She herself has ADHD. I didn't look for someone with ADHD, but I wanted someone who was ADHD informed, because when you have ADHD or autism or some other thing that really affects every part of your life, even things that are not about your ADHD are still affected by it. Your relationships, your spending habits, your everything, somehow it weaves itself in there. So it was important to me to find someone who was informed, and that's very helpful. It's really good. And, as corny as it is, having friends having people in your life that you can have not even just like honest conversations with, but people where you can express your own ADHD life too, and they in their same way can relate and explain what they do. And it's just it does really, really, really make a difference.
Absolutely. Peer support for the win. Do you remember where you said you were up to on the late ADHD diagnosis roller coaster last time?
I would assume, no, I don't remember, even though I did listen to it. I probably said acceptance because I think I was always there from this moment that
It's just now it had a name.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of like, it was never denial, as in like, I can't be like this. I was like, oh no, something is deeply wrong with me. I knew. I just thought it was me, not like this raging disorder that I had no concept of, you know? That really, just that alone really helped. But there was a little bit of like, not denial, but like, are you sure? Are you sure I'm not making it all up? Are you sure I'm not being dramatic? Which is like, I think a pretty universal
Yes.
experience. So there was a little bit of that in the very beginning, but even that I got over pretty quickly. And I was like, look, this is undeniable, word for word. Like I would read anecdotes of what people would say, or like if you read like a medical type of thing and they would put in parentheses, sometimes looks like this. I'm like, it looks exactly like that. They'd be like,
Yeah.
they might say this. I'm like, I say that every day. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So I got over that bit quite quick. And I think from the very beginning, it has been acceptance. It made sense right away. There is a lot of grief for the person who had to live for 30 years with, I know I said it jokingly, but it's very damaging to live for, well, any point of time, but for all of your formative years that, you know, to become the adult you're going to be, thinking that you are just, there's something deeply wrong with this person. Deeply wrong.
I wonder, just to add an extra like layer to that, do you feel any resentment? Do you feel any resentment?
Yes, I do actually. That is a good word. I feel a lot of resentment towards no particular person, just the situation.
Okay.
Because my mom, we had like a really, I mean, it's a couple years ago now, but I remember one time we had this conversation. She was really tearful and she was like, I'm so sorry that I never, she's like, I mean, she's the kind of mom who's like, "What, someone thought you weren't funny. You're so funny." You know what I mean? Like, she's that lovely. But she was like so upset that she hadn't, no, she's like, I just thought this was, you were fun and you were silly and yeah, you were messy, but you were this and yeah, I know you talked a lot, but like she felt a lot of guilt for not getting me any help. And I assured her that I don't feel any blame towards her. If they knew, if a doctor had said to my mom, and she was like, oh no, not my daughter, different story, or a nurse. So I don't feel any resentment towards anyone because in the age, I was born in 1989. I had all of the typical girl ADHD looking symptoms.
And girls didn't get ADHD in 1989.
They just talked too much and they were kind of weird, which is kind of me. I feel a lot of resentment for the situation that it had to happen at all, but at no specific person because nobody in my life knew better. So I can't expect people to do better if they don't know better.
What is your motivation in what you are doing? Like, obviously, in your shows, you've talked before about how, theatre kid and, you like acting and everything else. But obviously, to be doing this again, and I just have to say, Nicole, you've worked your fucking ass off. Like, it's been so hard. You've put everything into this. We've been on the road together. It's been hard times.
One of us is always about to fall apart.
Yeah, it's been really, really hard times. Why do you do it? What's your real driving force?
I have to ask myself that very often because it is a lot. Just the vulnerability of doing your own show full stop for any reason. So I think there's a couple of reasons. One, because I always wanted to pursue theater. I always wanted to write, not necessarily my own show, but I always had a lot to say. So on one hand, I want to do it because originally I wanted to do it because I wanted to see, hey, I wonder if this will work. And then it worked. And I think it was you. And it was like, are you doing this again because you want to see if it works or because it won't work? And I was like, I don't know. Ask me at the end of August and we'll find out. So some of it is just my own passion for being on the stage and being a storyteller and emoting and connecting and all those things that I really love on my own. But I could have done a show about anything.
Yes.
Right? But I chose to do a show about this because for me, finding out I have ADHD has been the most singular defining moment of my life thus far. I don't know what the rest of it holds, but I'm not saying it's the best moment, but defining. Like, stop, all the popcorn is still in the air. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not defective. I remember thinking, like, I have a disorder. This is incredible. And the other option was that I am just simply defective, which what am I supposed to do with that information?
Yeah.
It made me not want to be here. Finding out I have a disorder with a name and symptoms and things I can learn about and figure out and try to make this is progress. We can do things with this
and
and
work with this. Yeah.
work with this. Somewhere, something. Being completely defective is like, well, what's the point? This is not. So because it was such a singularly defining moment in my life, I, one, of course, wanted to talk about it, obviously. Two, I don't know if I knew this at the time, but in doing the first show and in doing the show again, I realized, which I'm sure you experience every second, Laura, with the podcast, that what I say on that stage, every single show, there is going to be at least one person in the audience who is having their most singularly defining moment in their life.
Yeah.
And that is, it's a little scary because it feels like a lot of like, not power, but influence, I think is the right word. So I do try really hard to choose my words, all 7 million that I say, really carefully, because I don't want it. I know it will cause influence and I want it to be in the most safeguarded way I possibly could. But I realized very quickly what that was. It felt like it was not like my purpose. That sounds a little too dramatic.
No, I think it's
Like
fine. I think
my what I could do.
your dharma. So it's what you're meant to be doing. I always think it's quite interesting as well. Like, you know, in so many scenarios, you and I stick out like a sore thumb. So to be able to use a ridiculous set of skills and a ridiculous lot of knowledge and just fucking point us at it and go, to actually not have stage fright, to actually just stand there and just be able to do a thing. It's like, well, God, life's been so tough. We should be able to do the things you can actually do, right?
Yeah, literally. Can I read a box of medication that contains highly addictive substances? I could be in rehab right now. No, I cannot. Can I stay on stage? If I forget the show, I could honestly ramble through and get through enough of it in 45 minutes and it would be fine.
Yeah.
Probably
Absolutely.
would not know that I forgot the show unless you'd seen it the day before or something.
Yeah.
There is a line somewhere. It's like there's this thing where people are like, "You're so great. I loved your show. I love this," and I'm like, "Just talk a lot. I just want to be to talk a lot. Okay, this is what I have. This is what I have to offer. You're welcome."
I think it's quite interesting because one of the main aspects, obviously, I haven't seen the whole show, but you've been performing segments of the show on the Alien Nation tour. And one of the main messages, particularly in terms of self-esteem and self-worth, is what a lifetime of unidentified ADHD has cost you. So then how do you overcome that? And I think having watched you on the stage perform this, but also to watch you behind the scenes is really difficult because I know what it's like to try and sell tickets. It's just this horrendous, is it even a paradox? I don't know, but it's just ludicrous that you're stood here passing on this message of how dented your self-worth is, and you're having to further push against that and be like, I'm worth spending money on at the same time.
I think about this a lot. So the whole thing of why am I still like this is because one, it's not going anywhere. I mean, this is no spoilers, but essentially it talks about I found out I had ADHD and I felt like I reached the top of a mountain, and that a lot of people, you know, I think also feel. And I have it's not a character as such, but I talk a lot about like your inner voice and how my inner voice is reflective of the things that people said to me when I would exhibit what are very clearly basic ADHD symptoms of forgetting something or whatever, you know. And then people would tell me what they think of me, and then I would internalize it and they'd be like, you're dumb and stupid. And then I would say to myself, I'm dumb and stupid. And how those words kept building and building and building and building and building. And that's all I thought of myself until I found out why I was like this, and that was able to break. And then the years kept coming. That euphoric moment of being like, I'm not dumb and stupid and lazy and careless and all the other things that we thought we were. That euphoric moment does not last forever. If you are in that moment of euphoria, I hope you stay there. I hope you prove me wrong. I've yet to meet anyone who lives like that forever, because you keep being yourself. Okay. It's hard. And so this show really talks about how, even though I know why I'm like this, even though I know about my ADHD, why is that voice still plaguing me? Why am I still unable to accept? Why do I still cling on to all the shit but I can't accept any of the love. And it's important to me that these shows, while being about ADHD, well, it's about me and I have ADHD, so therefore, that it's also something that anybody, you can bring your mom who doesn't even think ADHD is real, maybe. Everybody can understand the concept of trying to love yourself through your own mess and trying to unpack harmful things that other people said to you and trying to put that aside to let yourself be yourself. And if you can't understand that, then this is definitely not the show for you, I guess.
It's also accepting that even though you have the answers, you are still you. If your path to self-love is so shrouded in all of this shit, you're not just suddenly going to be like, oh, there's why, oh, I'm fine now. It's like, oh no, but I'm still me and I still fucking hate myself because of all of this shit.
Yes. And so again, I don't want to think it's a spoiler. This show talks about how last year I did the show and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, fingers crossed. And it was phenomenal. As in everybody loved it and it was so good. And I immediately sank into a hobbit hole and could not cope because one, I felt, how in the fuck has my whole life I didn't do this right, I did this wrong, this is a problem, oh Nicole. And all of a sudden now you all want to, oh, now I'm incredible. You can't see there's a lot of hand motions happening right now. Now I'm so smart, now I'm so great. Where was this energy my whole life? So it was like, it didn't make sense to me. And I really felt, I don't know, I really couldn't comprehend that people would listen to me and love what I was saying. And it felt safer to actually say, they're all lying to me and I am a piece of shit, because that's the place that I know the best. That's home. That is like,
I've never existed in this reality before. How do I
and I literally 404 brain could not compute with this new information. And so in finding out why am I still like this, I really realized how much that, even though I don't experience self-loathing as much as I used to, those battle scars, if you will, the ghosts, whatever you want to call it, those are still lingering. So I do not look at myself in a mirror anymore, thank God, and berate myself, or very rarely if it happens, on being, how could you be so, and then just all the horrible things you could say to yourself. I really do not do that anymore. It's not a part of my life. But having done that so often, it haunts you. It is a haunting. And so that was really a big motivation for this show, because it was what was happening in real time, in real life.
Yeah. So is it going to be a flop though? Is there any more tickets?
Maybe I'll make t-shirts. Maybe I'll do another show. I don't know. Maybe I'll write a book. I just need to do something with that title. Put out an album.
You know what? It's so funny because it's a bit like
how dare you, please?
Yes. It's do you know what? I've actually forgotten what I was going to say and I had a really good point. And I've done that for a little while. I was going to say, do you know what? It's so funny. Oh yeah. We were driving back from Flackstock. And you said, and you were just like, yeah, so I've got like, however many days it was, how many days? I still haven't learned my lines. At least I was really like, well, at least you know why you're still like this. I was like, and at least we know we're going to be doing exactly this time next year.
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, so the show's in a week. I don't know my lines. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have this. And this is the place I was last year. And I guess I'll be like this. Great. This is how it goes. I only learned my lines a week. Amazing. Amazing for me. Fabulous. The thing about it being a flop, which is very funny that they said that, truly I'm reclaiming. I'm going to use it. I don't know how. I don't know where. It's going to be a flop.
Nicole, it isn't going to be a flop.
No, it's not. It's not. So the whole thing about selling tickets is crazy, because there is nothing more vulnerable than you writing a show about you with only you in it. No other person is on that stage about a very vulnerable and specific life. It's like, I don't know if it was like boy troubles or something that's more generally universal. And then you're like, hi, here's my whole life and dreams. And it cost me about $5,000 and it's been a whole year. And I've been in and out of mental breakdowns. And I have do you mind believing in me? Could you just, if you don't mind, could you just believe in me? Thank you.
Do you think that and all of my heart and soul and everything that I'm pouring out in front of you might be worth, like, I don't know, £7 to £10 maybe?
Honestly, I'll give away any free tickets. I'm like, fine. It's fine. Like, I just, if someone, but there's only one way to find out if it'll be a flop. And if it's, if you're in Edinburgh, you can, it will
Well,
be.
I'm very excited. I think I'm coming to 8 shows.
I know,
think
you're
to 8 different shows.
you too can meet Laura. Come to a show and meet Laura.
I'm going to be flyering outside the venue, hassling
be
people in.
What we should do is we should flyer and be like, come see the show. Otherwise, it'll be a flop. Come see the show.
Have you seen in the press the show's going to be a complete flop?
Yeah, honestly, I think I'll have to print that out.
Or I'll wear a sandwich board.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right. Come on, let's get back on track. So, what would you like the world to know? Bust a misconception.
The misconception is what looks like something that's negative to you is probably just an ADHD symptom. Because one of the fears I always had in my life is that people don't like me. Not that they don't like me, that they don't like me for the correct reasons. So if you don't like me because I talk a lot and it's annoying, I understand. It's my ADHD symptom, but I get that. If you don't like me because I talk a lot, which is my ADHD, and you think that I'm self-absorbed and I don't care about you and all those other things, that's when it really starts to freak me out. So I guess what I'm saying is when you have these symptoms, whatever they look like, they make you appear to be the person that you are not. And that's how people remember you. I'm not running late because I don't care. I care very much. I'm probably throwing up in the back of a taxi knowing how late I am. Please believe that carelessness has nothing to do with it. I know that I talk a lot. I can't stand it. I can't help it. Please know it doesn't mean that I don't care about what you have to say or that I think my voice is more important, etc., etc., etc. That's the thing. If I could give a disclaimer when I meet people and be like, hi, I might act this way. Just so you know, It doesn't mean that I'm careless. I don't care and I'm this and I'm all those other things. That would be the disclaimer. If I could hand a business card out with all my disclaimers, that's kind of what it would say. And I think that's pretty universal.
Very much so. And you know what? That's really struck a chord with me. There's been a lot going on lately. I was watching a video back of us at Flackstock. I'd just done the closing speech. And as you know, some stuff had gone on that day. So I wasn't feeling my best self. And I got it done and it was really great. I did the closing speech. It meant a lot. And just as I was closing, I could hear Shaznay singing Pure Shores, which was the song that I wanted to see that day. It's a really special song. It reminds me of a very special time. And so then I was like, let's go outside and watch it. And we all went outside as a group. There was like loads of us. We went outside to watch the song. And I was feeling really, really emotional. I was kind of in my head, just kind of processing it all and going, oh my God, we did it. And this is amazing. And this song and reflecting on that time. And then I got a lot of different videos back from Flackstock. I watched them back to try and make a reel. And I watched that moment. And in that moment, I'm stood there. And one of our lovely community legends, Leopard Print Army legends, Jill, goes to say something to me. And I didn't realise, I didn't hear her. And I was in my head and I see her look to me and go like, oh, that was great or something. And it looks like I blank her. And I watched it back and I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know that she spoke to me because I'm hearing impaired. I'm really over emotional. And I'm watching everyone and everything. And I've got what happens next and where do we pack up? And it's just like, oh God. I watched it back just like, how many times have I done that? How many people have I ignored or shunned or looked like my nose was in the air because I didn't even fucking hear them speak?
And that's the fear that now they will have this perception. Because it's like, look, if you don't like me, you don't like me. What can I do? If you don't like me because I laugh loud, I'm sorry to hear that, but that's accurate. That you have an accurate portrayal of me that you dislike, and that's fair. But the portrayal of me that is not true, that if I knew I would apologize or try to course correct because that's not who I really am.
To Pure Shores if I knew she was there with me, you know? Exactly.
So that and I think that is very, very ADHD coded of presenting a way that is inaccurate to who you are as a person because of how your symptoms manifest. Not a careless, I'm careless in my mistakes. Actually, no, I'm not careless in anything. I care a lot about everything. But the perception would be that I'm very careless because that I can understand why you would think that, but that is not true. I have not cared about a single thing since I developed a consciousness. Everything. I lay awake at night and stress and all these things that don't even matter and nothing. I've never not cared. I've never had no worries. There's never been no wuzzers, as they say.
No, as I say.
No buzzers. So yeah, that perception that the way that our symptoms manifest is who we are is and that's the most troubling part because you don't know. So you can't, most of the time, you can't apologize and you can't course correct and you can't go, oh gosh, that was rude of me. Or I didn't mean it to say.
Do you have is there anything else you want to say to the listeners directly, not the wider world, but anyone listening?
Yes, you can come and see my show. I'm not kidding. I'll give you, I mean, I would love for you to buy a ticket, but I'll give you a ticket.
Please buy tickets, support the show.
Also, it's going to be filmed. So if you are not local and you are just so desperate to see my show and talk more, it will be filmed and available in like a week or two or something. I forget. I think it's like the 9th or 10th that it's available. But what I would like to say to the listeners is that knowing why you are like this is a continuous lifelong experience because who you are constantly changes and you adapt with yourself. So your ADHD, what it looked like in childhood is not what it looks like in adolescence. It is not because the way that our symptoms are reflective of the world around us. So if you, I don't have children, and one of those reasons that I've chosen not to have children is because I don't think I will cope very well. My ADHD would look different if I had 3 kids under 5. It would be a very different experience. It would be a lot harder for me to have basic functioning skills, and I know that. So should that ever decide to take that on, my ADHD will look different because my life will look different. So why you are the way you are continually changes. And that's okay. It's okay because you can't do anything about it. So it has to be okay. Because the other option is just hating yourself. And it just doesn't do anything.
No.
It doesn't get you anywhere. It doesn't make it better. It doesn't help you. It doesn't give you insight. It doesn't give you anything.
No.
So, I mean, I am absolutely preaching to the choir, and the choir being me. I'm telling myself this in real time, but that is truly, I think, the key to everything is the more that you can understand why you are the way you are and your circumstances and what's happening and what's around you and how they affect you, the more that you have an armor of sorts to handle it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what song best describes your ADHD?
I would say One Day More from Les Miserables. It's like 15 characters singing at once, all with different storylines. So that's already tells you all you need to know. Also, it's a bop. Everybody loves it. I don't think everybody loves my ADHD, but actually, no. I think people do sometimes because they look at me and think I'm a caricature of a person and they have a good time with it. So I'll take what I can get.
Oh, thank you. That's my favorite. That's my favorite one yet. That is my favorite one yet.
I don't know what I thought. I didn't pre-plan it. And I was like, when you said it, 'cause I was like, I don't, I do know.
It's very accurate. Nicole Nadler, you are still like this. You're an absolute legend. Congratulations on doing your show and break a leg. And I can't wait to come and see it. It's going to be amazing. Anybody going to Edinburgh Fringe, you have to go and see it. Last year's was amazing. I know this year is going to be even better. So we hope to see you there.
Yes, we do. And please come say hi if you do actually come. Oh my God, please. Sometimes people would message me and be like, I didn't want to bother you. And then it would, please bother me. I have literally this is the whole point. I want to be bothered. Please bother me. Please bother us. You will find out why we are all like this.
Yes, absolutely. I'll put a link in the blurb of this episode so people can grab tickets. Is there anything that you would like to add that we have not covered?
No, because if I start, we'll just keep going. There has to be a line drawn somewhere, Laura, of the talk.
Does there?
Chat. Well, we don't have to stop talking, just more for the podcast so people can get on with their lives.
If anybody's even still listening, let's be honest.
If you're still listening, blink twice. I didn't hear any blinking, so. Let's do a separate podcast where it has nothing to do with anything and we just talk shit.
At least we have each other, Nicole.
Yeah. I think we should do a podcast where it's just 20-minute episodes, LOL, of us just talking shit. There's nothing specific.
Is that not what we've done like 4 times over just now?
Yeah, but you're trying to like really share a message of like ADHD. This is one where we just absolutely talk shit. And we're like, do you want to listen? Great. If you do not, it's fine. We're gonna talk either way.
Coming up next week. If you are still listening, thank you for making it this far. You're a trooper. Thank you for supporting us and not judging us for how a brain disorder presents in us.
You know what? You could judge us. Just keep it to yourself. I don't expect to not be judged. I just expect you to be nice about it.
I just feel like there is one more person that I need to introduce to this, and then we will wrap it up. So much in the same vein of RSD2, I get my best ideas in the split second when I open my eyes. If I've got the brain space, and it's when I know I'm in a good brain space, is because actually I have ideas. And I sat bolt upright one day, much as I did with RSD2, and I thought to myself, oh my God, Optimistic Meg. And so I created this character in my mind of Optimistic Meg. And I decided that it would obviously need to be Nicole that was Optimistic Meg. And of course, being the trooper that she is, she absolutely humoured me, brought Optimistic Meg to life with some amazing Hun cards that were given to me by the wonderful Mickey. And these cards are like top trumps, but it's like rated in Hun factor. So there's like all the greatest Huns. So you've got like
Adele, Sharon from EastEnders,
Cassidy, Miriam, like
it's
the cheeky
yeah, and they're
girls.
rated on like their level of fashion, icon, naughtiness, cheeky.
You know, it's really brilliant. So I had Nicole reading people's tarot cards, except they were Hun cards, as Optimistic Meg. And she just absolutely smashed it to the extent that we actually had a queue out of the tent at Flackstock, and she read people's pretend tarot cards for 5.5 hours.
Yeah,
I think.
Hours and hours and hours. I've never experienced anything like this in my whole existence, and probably never will.
This is why you should never humor me and my stupid ideas, but you always do.
At first, I did look at. I don't know. I didn't know who Mystic Meg was because I am foreign. I don't know these things. Well, she showed me, and I was like, "What?" So the character went through some transformations, and I channeled a drag overdone version of who I assume my mother was in the 80s. And Optimistic Meg was born, and she talks like this, and she's very optimistic, and she always knows what's best for you, darling. Okay, Optimistic Meg knows all.
Okay, so I've just pulled the Miriam card. Let's leave the listeners with the Miriam card. What does Miriam want us to know from your optimistic viewpoint?
Okay, so this card is Miriam Merkeles. I don't know if you know who she is, but let me tell you about this woman. She is always her most authentic self. So you pulling this card to me says that you need to live in your most authentic life. Miriam always says it's better out than in, whether it's an emotion, something you got to say, or just a thought. You got to let it out. You got to be true to yourself and let it out to the world.
5.5 hours and a lot of happy people at Flackstock Festival. Thank you so much. And they've invited us back next year. So maybe Optimistic Meg will make another.
Optimistic Meg will be back. Don't you worry.
But why are you still like this though?
Laura, the list is as long as I am.